Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Humanist meeting today. We have a relatively active group of humanists here, and we like to meet about once a month, and so this is one where we've decided to rise up and take over for a service. So then it became, well, what music am I going to play for a humanist? And I think you're going to notice that all of the tunes that I've selected, well, they are deferential to some kind of spirituality. And I think that that's okay. It's okay with me, absolutely. So yeah, we're going to do one called Down to the River. I wrote this about 10 years ago. I went down to the river, cast my lot into its flow, heard no flight of angels sing as the water brushed my toe. So I climbed the sacred mountain, saw the river far below, the howling wind did chill my bones, but his garden refused to grow. Lost, 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 am I lost here in the wilderness, seeking shelter where wretched access? I can't find meaning in my days, the way to express, Lord, I'm lost, lost, lost. Went to school a dozen years, and I went back a dozen more, and I can't say that I had any truth to offer for sure. Nothing learned in dusty halls, learned no secret and no cure, and nothing in ivory towers to open up his door. Lost, 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 am I lost here in the wilderness, seeking shelter in a world of wretched access? I can't find meaning in my days, a way to express, Lord, I'm lost, lost and lost. And then there is my music. There has got to be a way for these damn strings to offer something I could say, some that was clear and pure, some that I could sing and you could dance or sing along. Maybe grace might come my way. Lost, 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 am I lost here in the wilderness, seeking shelter where the wretched wretched accents. I can't find meaning in my days away to express, Lord, I'm lost, lost, lost.
Thank you, David, Stephen, and Travis. That was phenomenal. As Rumi said, come, come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. No matter what you've experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. My name is Cate MacGillivray. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a light-skinned, white-haired, bespectacled woman in a gray shirt. It's my privilege to serve as the worship associate for this morning's Humanist service. So I have some announcements. I'd like to remind you that the BIPOC caucus is May 4th at 12 p.m. after service. Also, to remind you to save the date for May 18th. It's going to be an epic day. We have our monthly potluck after service, a congregational meeting, and a wonderful send-off to Reverend Lora as she begins her sabbatical. And I'd also like to remind you to please sign up for happenings for more details. There's a lot more going on than this. The last thing I would like to ask is Cam Adams to come up. He has an announcement for you.
Morning, everybody. I'm Cameron Adams. He, him pronouns. I'm a white guy, about 6 feet tall. We've got an unveiling for you. If you look around, you can see our paintings that have been commissioned. I'm told by the mother of a former director of religious exploration. Annette Omer is her name. Years ago, 2023 at least, nearly 2 years ago, we adopted the 8th principle. And during this, I do want to read it to remind us what we all voted on and adopted as a congregation. But why don't I read it first and then we'll unveil. The principle, the 8th principle is, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. So let's remember what we've all covenanted to embrace within ourselves. You'll see a few children that actually are still part of our congregation when this was commissioned nearly 2 years ago. Drum roll, please. Let's see it. So we'll have this put up for a time. We've got smaller prints down in the religious exploration hallway as well to remind us, and those are the ones that'll be permanent fixtures. But thanks so much, everybody. Come have a look after service, and we appreciate it.
So let's take a moment to welcome each other, and first by beginning to wave to our community at home through the camera right back there. And then take a few minutes to welcome each other, get up and move around. And when you return to your seat, stay standing for our first hymn.
I invite you to stay standing, and we'll sing our hymn number 298. invite you to remain standing as we light our chalice. Who's our chalice? We have Rebecca coming up to light our chalice. And as she comes up, I'd just like to invite us all to think about humanism a little bit. That's going to be our theme today. I just want you to notice how we're human beings gathered here with other human beings talking about really human stuff. And we'll talk more about it later. But I invite you now to read with me our chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you so much. And now I think we do have one more announcement that got missed.
Good morning. I wanted to take the opportunity because this is the last Sunday that I am announcing our BIPOC meeting coming up. It's next Sunday downstairs right after church. It's for anybody who identifies as BIPOC. It will be our first meeting and lunch will be provided. There's more info in the happenings and there's a QR code in the happenings also and quick information that the happenings is our email newsletter that I'm happy to set you up with even after church today. Just come by. It's also in the church's website. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you guys.
Okay, now we have our time for all ages. Okay, I have a story for you. The pictures are going to be up on the screen, but I'll also have them right here in the book. We have more pillows. All right, let's get started. Once there was a vast, beautiful land that was a home to all the animals, from the largest elephant to the smallest ant. There was room for everyone. Birds sang in the trees, as monkeys swung through the branches, snakes slithered around their trunks, and giant cats crept silently below. On one small branch, one of the tall trees, a tiny hummingbird built her nest. She wove bits of plants and flowers together with the silk of a spider's web and lined it with downy moss. Soon her eggs would come, and she needed a home that was both soft and strong. Then I have a hummingbird right here. It is not a real one. They don't stay in your hand very long, so I thought I would bring this one, and I'll let you look at that. You can pass it around. Say it again. You will see it in just a minute. We're going to pass it around, okay? All right. But just as the hummingbird finished her nest, a small spark flew on a breeze and landed on a leaf. What's a spark? Can you tell? Go ahead.
It's kind of like a little fire thing, but not big and it's not really that like that.
Right, it's a small fire thing. You're right. And the spark started a fire which grew and grew and grew. The animals fled to the river and stood by the safety of its bank, too scared to move, all except the hummingbird. What do you think this might be at? A water pool? What? Well, let's see. We'll find her in a minute, but what country do you think that is? Look at those animals. Africa? Yeah, that's what I would guess. Could be in Asia? Yes. A jungle? Yep. I'm glad you're all thinking this morning. Here's the hummingbird. She thought of her home in the tall tree, of the soft, strong nest beneath her, and of her eggs that would be coming soon. And she knew that she had to do something. Then she flew to the fire and let the drop. Oops, I'm sorry, I missed a spot. And so the hummingbird flew to the river and filled her tiny beak with just the littlest drop of water, for that's all it would hold. Then she flew to the fire and let the drop fall. She flew straight back to the river and again took just one drop. Back and forth she flew, letting fall drop after drop after drop. So all the animals watched in bewilderment. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. What do you think they're thinking?
What is she doing?
What is she doing, that little hummingbird? Right.
One little hummingbird. I don't think possibly do it alone.
You don't think she can do it all?
No, like the animals.
Let's find out, okay? Finally, the great wise elephant stepped forward and asked in her great wise voice, "Hummingbird, what are you doing? You cannot put out that terrible fire. You're just a small bird." The tiny hummingbird fluttered her wings and answered in her tiny voice, "I'm doing what I can." When the great wise elephant heard this, she looked down at her grandchildren and thought what the fire would take from them. The elephant bowed her head to the hummingbird. "Then I will do what I can." With the hummingbird flying above her, the elephant thundered toward the fire and sprayed it with jets of water. When the other animals saw the tiny hummingbird and the giant elephant working together, each doing what she could, they stopped laughing. They stopped shaking their heads. Even though they were scared, they thought of their own homes and they said to each other, "We will do what we can." Look how all the different animals. We've got lions and leopards and zebras. Yeah, they're all, I'm sure there's a tiger in there. I'm sure they're all working together too.
Ants.
The small ants did what they could. The chimpanzees and gorillas did what they could. The leopards and lions and warthogs and aardvarks and giraffes and hippos did what they could. And soon every animal was working together to put out the fire. Still, the fire raged and it roared. Whoops. It's tricky. Back and forth the hummingbird flew, and her wings grew very tired. Back and forth the elephant lumbered, and her legs grew very tired. Back and forth all day and all night the other animals ran, marched, swung, slithered, and crawled, and they grew very tired. Then, as the sun rose above the treetops and the exhausted hummingbird thought she could fly no further, she let one drop fall, and the fire was gone. What was that?
Is it grew or got tired?
She got tired. Did I say the wrong word?
You said grew tired.
She grew tired. Let me see. She thought she could fly no further, and she let one. I'm kind of making it up as I go. Anyways, the fire was gone. The hummingbird finally came to rest on the elephant's broad back and looked out at the land that was the animal's home, where on one small branch of one tall tree, her little nest was waiting for her. So what did you think about that book? Go ahead, Rebecca.
It's all about helping each other.
It's about helping each other. Yeah. Do you agree? How about, are the animals typical to get along with each other, with lions? And no, they don't usually. So they went against their differences, thank you, and they got together and they worked as a group and took care of a terrible thing. Did you ever do anything like that? Did you join a group to take care of an issue or a problem?
No, I just joined a group for soccer.
You joined a group for soccer. That's a good thing, right?
I just joined a gymnastics group.
And gymnastics? Have you ever planted a tree or flowers or plants?
My mom plants vegetables.
Right, and so you can help, can't you? What can you do to help plant things?
I make the holes.
You make the holes. And so all together, you're working together to make this world a better place, right? Because we need flowers and plants and trees and things like that. All right, we're going to sing you downstairs, and you can put your pillows back in here. Our church and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this we are grateful. Your gifts help ensure that we are able to live our values of love, justice, and the world outside. Part of our ministry at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. This month we share with Comunidades Unidas, I believe it's the last week for that, whose motto is nobody's free until all are free. Please join me in reading our offertory words. We are this church, we are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. We'll now accept the offering. For those at home, you're invited to use the giving link on the online order of service. I invite the ushers forward.
One drink from your cup of sorrow, won't bathe in your holy blood. I wanna sleep with the promise of tomorrow. Though tomorrow may never come. Send a prayer out across the ocean to a man being forced out of his home. Send a prayer out across the ocean so that he may not suffer there alone. Want to drink from your cup of sorrow. Want to bathe in your holy blood. Want to sleep with the promise of tomorrow. No tomorrow may never come. I want to sit at your table of wisdom so that not one crumb shall go to waste. For to keep down this pathway to destruction. Know our children suffer for our hate. I want to drink from your cup of sorrow. Wanna bathe in your holy blood. Want to sleep with the promise of tomorrow. Though tomorrow may never come, although tomorrow may never come, although tomorrow may never come.
Thank you so much, David, Travis, Richard. And thank you to everyone who has given, who's found the courage to give. For all we've received and for all we've found the courage to give, may we be truly thankful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and to Comunidades Unidas. Okay, well, we've reached our main part of our program, and I'm really excited for the stuff we're going to talk about over the next few minutes. The first thing we're going to do, Cate and I are going to read, well, actually, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tom. I'm your worship leader today. I'm also part of the Humanist group, and I'm super excited to kind of bring some of the Humanist energy to the service today, the takeover, as David said. But the first thing we're going to do is actually read a statement from Reverend Lora. So if anybody was missing Reverend Lora, this is your part of your program where you get your Reverend Lora fix. She helped to craft this statement together with other progressive clergy in the area. So here's the statement along those lines. Oh, there she is. Okay. In this time of such chaos, confusion, and moral recession, we long for a renewed foundation of dignity and belonging for all.
In spite of our culture's emphasis on pride, wealth, and a bastardization of freedom, We are committed to truth and beauty and the values that have been weaved throughout the history of mankind.
And
I meant to say humankind.
I was going to say
I'm very
humankind.
sorry.
That's what it said.
Yeah.
And although we will never reach it perfectly, it is a privilege to keep trying to love one another, to care for our neighbors, and to create a world infused with peace.
Although we will never understand it perfectly, our search goes on for communal well-being, spiritual grounding, and meaningful way of living.
Therefore, with grace and humility, and with a clear and bold purpose, we stand loudly, and some of us kneel prayerfully, for a resurgence of justice.
We align our souls in solidarity with the poor and those whose identities have been marginalized. We walk and roll and skip and dance in dreams of healing for all present and our environmental neighbors. Sorry, I have a printing problem here.
The world is so full of such anger and hypocrisy and lies that we call on our community to liberate itself from such brokenness. We call on our community to cultivate its imagination toward better virtues. We call on our community to resist ideologies of judgment and power. And since we share our voices in this hope, we call on each other to recognize the joy in our midst, to laugh and make art. We call on each other to enrich our lives through diversity and open-mindedness. We call on each other to support the rights of people to flourish in their own lives and by making decisions together with civility.
It is trust, what some call faith, that carries us forward. It is a holy adventure that we pursue. It is soul work together that keeps us going. It is a vision of wholeness for which we work.
Thank you. And now we're going to have a few members of our humanist group come up and give a few remarks. They're going to be on a diversity of topics, but you're going to get a little flavor of the kinds of discussions that we have together in our humanist group. First David, then myself, and then Ted, and then Michelle, and then Palmer.
Hello again. My name is David Lane. I'm a slightly portly but dashingly handsome guy with a, let's see here, I'm a little bit follicularly challenged. I have a pink shirt on. Yeah, so when the humanist group started, it was a great thing for me. I've always felt very, very at home here because this group has always opened its arms to pretty much any spiritual path that you were interested in, including none at all. So yeah, I want to thank the community and I want to thank the group. I wrote down some words. I'm not terribly good at speaking ad hoc, so I'll probably just read. I come out of a nihilist background. My father and mother were certainly Nietzsche-following nihilists, essentially, and that word has gotten a weird connotation in our society. But I would dare anybody to take a real look at it. So to me, Nietzsche's admission that God was dead was to me obvious for my whole life. Society is moving forward, and religious dogma is fading in our society. It's fading all across the planet, in fact. I get to choose the framing of my existence and the storyline of my life, and God is not in the plot. So I look around. What conversation with myself would I like to entertain as, like Camus' Sisyphus, over and over, I push my boulder up the hill. And what humor shall I play with as I watch it roll back down? And that's the sum total of my game. Lately, it's been consciousness. And more broadly, it's been the feel of the now. Max Planck, back in 1939, famously said, quote, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. 86 years ago, Planck, who was probably more formidable a mind than Einstein, saw that matter was not the primary foundational aspect of reality. Consciousness is. Matter arises from or is a manifestation of consciousness. There is no deeper reality or explanation beyond consciousness. These words electrify me. I see their truth in physics. I've delved deep enough to just take them as truth now. They are inescapable, and their ramifications are, for me, a form of slow awakening. I'll leave you with a trippy thought. This is, after all, a church, and if I can't trip here, I can't trip anywhere, man. Mind isn't emergent. Brain doesn't give forth consciousness. My brain is a biological computer, a processor of inputs, a model maker, a stage play, a movie screen, upon which my absolutely pitiful senses create the patterns of a now. And that model is wrong. It cannot help but be wrong. Because my brain, my sight, my smell, my hearing, they all lie. Or at least they don't tell very much of the whole story. They're all designed by an evolutionary process for a tiny window of existence on a dust mote of a planet swimming through the heavens. I, if there is an I, is something else. Mind is quite beyond brain. Perhaps then I have come back around once again. Thank you.
I love it. I'm going to give you guys a very brief history lesson. So for those of you who like history, you're in luck. For those who don't worry, it'll be brief. 100 years ago, in the 1920s, something really cool and exciting happened. The folks who didn't believe in a God started infiltrating our church. So for those who don't know, the Unitarian tradition goes back a long ways, and it's a Christian tradition, just like many. But like I say, in the 1920s, let's see, their names were Curtis Reese and John Dietrich. They were full-on Unitarian ministers, with their own congregations, and they started explicitly and openly teaching a non-theistic version of religion. Reese called it a religion of democracy, and Dietrich called it humanism. They advocated social change as well as freedom of belief. As you might expect, conservatives within the Unitarian movement fought their views. And for those who don't know, we still, every year we have this thing called the GA. We have the General Assembly. And so at the General Assembly in the 1920s, there were these battles happening between the humanists on one side and the theists on the other. And fortunately for us, Unitarianism had no creed. And so Dietrich and Rees prevailed and were allowed to continue and be part of our tradition. And ever since the 1920s, we've had a strong non-theistic component of our tradition. It doesn't mean that we all believe there's no God, that's not it. But there are those among us who don't believe in a God, and we all together make our tradition the Unitarian Universalists. Anyway, so in the 1920s, the humanist movement, in a way, started, almost came out of Unitarianism. I already mentioned two people that were important. There was also Charles Francis Potter. He founded the first Humanist Society of New York. He had been a Baptist minister, and then he was a Unitarian minister. He wrote a book called Humanism, A New Religion, outlining the basic premise and points of what he termed religious humanism, which basically just means people who still believe that the religious aspect of it is really important, that we get together and we do community and we do religion together, even though it's not centered around God necessarily. The American Humanist Association, which some of you may have heard of, still a very strong organization in our country, was formed in 1941 when these same two individuals I mentioned, Curtis Rees and John Dietrich, as Unitarian ministers, and together with some other humanists and philosophers, they reorganized what was the Humanist Press Association into the American Humanist Association. And it turns out, interestingly, during those early stages of the American Humanist Association, people would often come forward and say, hey, we want to meet, like we believe in what the American Humanist Association believes in. Where can we go on Sundays, basically? And they would send them to the Unitarian Church. This was the place where humanists were sent to meet. Of course, as the AHA grew larger, they started making their own chapters. And so we have kind of what we have today what we see today is that both organizations exist simultaneously, right? We have the Unitarian Universalists. Here we are with our strong humanist component. And then we also have the American Humanist Association, which holds its own meetings and kind of does its own thing in its own style. And both are humanist organizations. The other big important thing that happened with these same folks around that time, the 1940s, let me switch to my other book, 1940s, was the Humanist Manifesto. And I'm going to read you just a little piece of the Humanist Manifesto. Again, signed by a whole bunch of Unitarian ministers at the time. Here's what it says. Though we consider the religious forms and ideas of our fathers no longer adequate, the quest for the good life is still the central task for humankind. It says mankind. I'm putting my own words in there, humankind. But let me say that again. The quest for the good life is still the central task for humankind. We at last are becoming aware that we alone are responsible for the realization of the worlds of our dreams, for the world of our dreams, that we have within ourselves the power for its achievement, and we must set intelligence and will to the task. Again, the task of the good life. It's human solutions to human problems. That's the basic idea of humanism. I want to just leave you with a final statement here from a man named William Murray, who's a current Unitarian minister and also identifies as a humanist. He says, and he's talking about these manifestos articulate the essential core of humanism. It is a religious perspective that is grounded in the natural, not the supernatural. that emphasizes the worth and dignity of human beings rather than the glory of God, and that considers social justice and social responsibility to be far more important than personal piety. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Ted Gurney, and I'm going to give you not a historical church perspective, but my own personal beliefs and how I came here. Like all children, I learned about religion from my parents. Their names are Alice and Theodore Gurney Sr. I'm Theodore Gurney Jr. We're not church members. We never prayed at home. We were different from most of our neighbors, which was in rural Connecticut, north of Hartford. Our neighbors were mostly Roman Catholic and went to Catholic Mass. Most of my classmates in elementary school were of Irish, Italian, or Polish ancestry, and they went to Irish, Italian, or Polish churches. My grandparents on both sides were also not religious, but my great-grandparents on both sides were religious. They were Protestant Congregational on my father's side and Swedish Lutheran on my mother's side. So by the time I was 10 years old, I knew that religion, or the lack of it, was learned at home. My parents' lack of religion was about, now I see, 80 years ahead of its time. I learned recently from the New York Times that by the year 2022, the number of non-religious people in the United States was larger than that of any single religious denomination. My father's grandfather, that my great-grandfather, was a young congregational minister from Dover Foxcroft, Maine, until his church sent him west to Yankton, South Dakota, to spread the faith west. I don't know anything really about my great-grandfather's church in Yankton, but I do know about a family company started there, the Gurney Seed Company, which is now still prominent in the Midwest. We get a Gurney Seed Company catalog every January. Just a single remnant of religion remained in my family when I was growing up, and that was Christmas. We gave each other Christmas presents, and we always had a Christmas tree. We even hung stockings over the fireplace. But we did not believe in Santa Claus, or in the virgin birth, or in any of the purely religious aspects of Christmas or Christianity. So what did we really miss by not going to church? Now in my old age, I'm 85, I think we missed important social aspects of our lives. Regular church meant regularly seeing people whom we liked and trusted. I think that lack of church isolated us too much. I think the social aspect of church is the major reason that religion has flourished in human society. So it's beyond ourselves. It's more than that. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I met one of my mother's relatives where they grew up in Jamestown, New York, and met a young youth Lutheran minister who immediately asked about my religious status and learned that I'd never been baptized at 5 or 6. So he fixed that problem instantly by baptizing me on the spot. So maybe somewhere in the records of the Swedish American Lutheran Church it is recorded that I'm really Lutheran. So if religion was a rare topic at home and even in school, how did I become an ardent non-believer? That began during my freshman year at Harvard College. Harvard assigned me a roommate from Tulsa, Oklahoma, named Fred Gilbert. Fred turned out to be a devoted Christian and also a white supremacist. But he was also a good student in math and science, so I owe him credit for helping to teach me physics, which became my major. His goal was to become a lawyer like his father, but to specialize in patents and other technical subjects bearing on the law. He chose the subject of physics as his major because, unlike chemistry or biology, it did not mention Darwinian evolution, which was contrary to his fundamentalist beliefs. He thought that being a lawyer with technical talents would give him a particular advantage, and he was correct. He succeeded in that ambition, graduating from Harvard College, also Harvard Law School, and then starting his own law firm back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. From his strong examples, he stimulated me to solidify my own opinions about scholarship, religion, and politics. But most of my preference turned out to be strongly different from his. One of our strongest disagreements concerned Darwinian evolution. I thought that evolution had become a cornerstone of modern science, while he was an ardent creationist, believing strongly in the biblical version of creation. Another disagreement concerned his racial preferences. In his view, blacks were clearly inferior, although indigenous Americans were not. His mother had Indian ancestors, as do many white people in Oklahoma. He thought the best solution to our country's racial problems would be to reinstitute slavery, that the wrong side had run the Civil War. He wanted to round up black people and make them slaves again. Then there would be no controversy about civil rights. In the summer of 1957, between my second and third years at Harvard, I became interested in the Quaker faith, not because of Quakers' religious beliefs, because of their humanitarian activities. So I enrolled at a friend's summer work camp in Bellingham, Washington, on the Lummi Indian Reservation. There we built a school for Lummi kids. That was lots of hard work that summer. There were also Quaker religious services, mostly silent meditation, and more vocal political and humanitarian discussions. I learned recently that Quaker work camps have been discontinued, not because they became too humanitarian, but because they became too popular. They became inexpensive summer vacation spots for many Quaker families all across the U.S. So the Quaker work camp administrators were just too nice to charge their summer visitors what they really cost. I think they should have charged even more than that. I've thought many times how Quaker summer work camps could become wonderful educational institutions for people of all ages and all beliefs. Until the year 2000, when Tucker and I became South Valley members, we had really not thought much about religion except to accompany Tucker's father to church. Tucker's parents moved from Detroit to Salt Lake to be near us after Tucker's father retired, but he was an observant Episcopalian. We also came close to our next-door neighbors in Salt Lake, Steve and Diana Epperson, who are nominally LDS, but Steve thought that feeding the homeless where they camped under freeway bridges was more important on summer mornings than going to church. Because Steve skipped church, he was fired from his job at BYU professor. There at BYU, he taught history of religion. So Steve changed churches and became a UU minister, first here at South Valley and then in Vancouver, British Columbia, after he left us. So Steve taught Tucker and me. We owe our SVUUS membership to Stephen Epperson. Thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Michelle Butler, and I'm she, her, long blonde hair, blue eyes, turquoise sweater, see, I was raised in the Mormon church. One Sunday, the lesson was on creation. I was prone to be a smartass, and so I asked, where did the dinosaur bones come from then? Brother Edwards recognized that it was a fair question. He said that the lesson for the day was on the biblical account of creation. He explained a bit about the scientific method and that the importance of first coming up with a hypothesis. He asked us to take a week to consider our own hypothesis regarding how we might have dinosaurs and the biblical creation. The following Sunday, we would look at these hypotheses. The next Sunday was very interesting. The world history timeline was drawn out. The possibility that Adam and Eve came much later than the dinosaurs was the best hypothesis. A few days later, I was called into the bishop's office. I was asked about the Sunday school lesson. I could see this was not going well, and I didn't like it. I explained that I had asked the question, where do the dinosaur bones come from then? Brother Edwards was simply addressing my question. The bishop insisted that Brother Edwards was not teaching church doctrine. I asked the bishop where he believed dinosaur bones come from. He said that we should have faith. I looked at him and restrained myself from repeating what he said as a question. We should have faith? We should have faith in what? We should have faith that there are no dinosaur bones? On the way out, I met Brother Edwards coming in. I went to him and said, I'm so sorry. I explained to the bishop that you were just addressing my question. Brother Edwards took my hand and said, Michelle, if I taught you nothing else, I hope that I taught you to question. I continued to go to church, but I never saw Brother Edwards again. I went to Vernal a few years ago, and I touched a real dinosaur bone. What is real is really amazing. I was turned off by the notion that God is some old man living on the planet Kolob with numerous wives forever populating worlds. I am drawn, however, to the question of how life began. The way the universe works has fascinated us for as long as we have had language to consider the questions. These questions were the topics of our earliest texts. Across cultures, the belief in gods has helped us to answer these questions. We have some rich stories, but I prefer to propose hypotheses that keep up with what we know to be real. We understand now how stars and galaxies form, that the universe is infinite is a mathematical and scientific imperative. It simply must be. However mind-blowing that might be, reality touches the deeply sacred. I look to science and observation. How life came into existence is truly mysterious. The Lakota Sioux had it right for their word for God. They believe in the great mysterious. The truly scientific mind must learn to sit with an unanswered question and acknowledge that it is unanswered. Darwin's theory of evolution is the best explanation for how life evolves. His theory has imperfections. The complexity of life evolves too quickly during the Cambrian age to be a cause of natural selection. I am not inclined to believe in the Darwinian explanation for the origin of life. The statistics don't match up. What are the chances that the first single-celled living organism randomly came into existence from a mixture of molecules? The DNA in that first cell, let's call it the God cell, must have been insanely complex. The DNA of a simple single-cell organism is far more complex than the most complex computer programs. And yet, the first cell would give rise to the marvelously diverse and interconnected web of life that we see on Earth today. The random mutation theory seems to me to be just absurd as the God is a man with a white beard theory. I believe Darwin was correct in saying that life evolves. The evidence for that is clear. I don't believe, however, that life evolves from random mutations, any more than a zygote develops into an embryo and then a fetus randomly. I got a degree in psychology because of my great fascination with consciousness. I came out of school with more questions than solutions. I don't believe consciousness is just a sequence of neurons firing. To say that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain is like saying that the earth is flat because it appears to be. If we are honest with ourselves, we don't know what consciousness is or how it came to be. Materialists are comfortable with the theory that neurons of the brain create consciousness. I might be more of a spiritualist than purely humanist in this regard, but I approach my spiritualism with a commitment to science. René Descartes observed, "I think, therefore I am." Seemed a silly play with the obvious when I first heard it. Well, duh. Yeah, and so? And Descartes achieved fame for this? Then I realized that most scientists believe that consciousness is neurons firing. They seem to think that the question is settled. It is not. We experience the world around us in response to neurons firing, but we are the experiencer, the thinker. Descartes was right. Einstein wrote, "The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed-out candle. To sense that behind anything that can be experienced, there is something that our minds cannot grasp, whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly. This is religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I am a devoutly religious man." Science is a humanist endeavor, and I find the search for an understanding of how the universe works to be, and for the source of consciousness to be, a deeply religious quest. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Palmer, pronouns he, him, and his. Tallish, white, male-presenting individual with dark brown hair, eyeglasses, a scruffy beard, black button-down shirt, blue jeans, and dirty old sneakers, suitable for walking around the Salt Lake Capitol. Hope you join me. Question: is the Big Bang still happening? The story of how we got that cosmological view is very interesting. It begins, as much of modern science does, with a man named Albert Einstein. In 1915, he published a set of field equations in support of the general theory of relativity, suggesting that our universe is not static. The sky we look up at now is just slightly different from the ones our ancient ancestors looked at, and is slightly different from the sky that future descendants will look at in years to come. Russian cosmologist Alexander Friedman confirmed mathematically that we are indeed living in an expanding universe. Belgian theoretical physicist and mathematician Georges Lemaitre observed that our galaxies are moving away from each other with a speed proportional to their distance. In other words, the farther apart they are, the faster they're moving away from one another. And in 1929, American astronomer Edwin Hubble, yes, the namesake for the famous telescope, separately confirmed Lemaitre's findings. The story itself in the Big Bang is very dense, no pun intended. There is a lot to it. And some of the most interesting things happened in the first trillionth of a second. It begins with a singularity of near infinite temperature, nearly infinite density, and near zero scale. And in that first trillionth of a second, the amount of energy in this tiny space is so immense that quantum effects apply rather than Newtonian or even Einsteinian mechanics. And if you know anything about quantum mechanics, that stuff is bonkers. It's only after a period of rapid expansion within the first few seconds of the Big Bang that unimaginably small to unimaginably vast, the rules of physics begin to apply. In the next 10 seconds or so, we see the formation of quarks, the neutrinos, leptons, photons, and in time, all those energies began to aggregate to become subatomic particles, atomic particles. Helium and hydrogen are drawn together. They ignite to become stars. Colder, denser matter becomes rock worlds. Some of them develop water and life, and sometimes we populate one of them. It's interesting to note that in 1951, let's see here, Georges Lemaitre was also a Catholic priest. In 1951, Pope Pius XII congratulated him on confirming the Christian doctrine of creatio ex nihilo, creation from nothing. People will do with stories whatever they like. And there are alternative theories to the Big Bang. And I'm not just talking about science versus creationism or intelligent design, but there are other ideas for how this universe that we inhabit came to be. There are the idea of, rather than a singular Big Bang, perhaps smaller Big Bangs, like an ongoing fireworks show, or quantum waves, because quantum phenomena are known to appear and vanish instantly. But what if some of them stuck around and made other particles, other energies in the world? Or there's one that suggests that perhaps we are matter ejected through a black hole from some other universe. All of these are very fascinating, interesting theories, and it's always nice to entertain alternative ideas. So far, the Big Bang theory, as we call it, is the one best supported by observable data. One of those is the background microwave energy that we observe in the universe. It sounds like an echo, the long tail of an exploding reverb. There are things that the Big Bang theory has not yet told us. We don't know what happened before, because the way time and matter and velocity interact with one another, asking what came before becomes a lot more interesting question than you would think. There's also a lot of matter and energy in the universe that we can't account for through direct observation. 23% of the universe is believed to consist of matter that we have not yet observed or accounted for other than through mathematics. 73% of the universe is made up of energies that we have not yet named or identified. Only 4% of the stuff in the universe, the planets, the nebula, the asteroids, the comets, the stars, that's just 4% of what we believe is in the universe. And interestingly enough, you would expect after an explosion like the Big Bang that eventually we'd start decelerating. One of the curious things is that because of those dark energies, the expansion of the universe actually appears to be accelerating. We are moving faster apart from each other. Now, if this were a science class, we could explore those alternative theories and all that data and talk about how the data came to be and where does it direct us and what theories does it point to. But this isn't a science class. This is a church. Specifically, a Unitarian Universalist church. If it's anything like academia, it's more of a humanities course where we ask ourselves what the stories we tell say about storytellers and the story hearers. We've just spent the month of April examining creation stories and what they tell us about ourselves when reflected back to us. What does a story in the Big Bang say to us about us? Well, here's one possibility. In this very local universe, a South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, where energies seen and unseen, named and unnamed, try very hard to push us further apart from one another by forbidding words and ideas, by cutting off support for the arts and the humanities, by naming people we should call enemies. Instead, we are drawn together as if by a moral gravity. Like hydrogen fusing into helium and heavier elements, the heat of our consciences comes together to formulate a vision of a just and equitable world. And then we spread out as if light from stars spanning galaxies all the way to far-off places like the steps of the Utah State Capitol or Washington Square, and there to declare our self-existent convictions. So tell me, is the Big Bang still happening? Thank you.
So I'm speaking to you as the worship associate to wrap this up this morning. I'd like to reiterate our opening quote for today. And yes, we do have an opening quote. I'm not sure you're all familiar with it. It's usually on the screen here. But I want to say it one more time. It's from Jane Goodall. We have the choice to use the gift of our life to make the world a better place, or not to bother. To prepare for these reflections, I read. And this time I have quotes that relay the message so much better than I can. These are from people who possess the gift of philosophical thought and eloquent language. A friend of mine sent me a pledge that you are familiar with. It's got a new verse and a new concept. Could it be something new for our classrooms? Let's hope. I pledge allegiance to the earth and all the life which it supports, one planet in our care, irreplaceable, with sustenance and respect for all. The earth is the one thing we all share. There's no one alive who doesn't exist because of this planet and who doesn't return to this earth in some form. The sad part is that many of us don't exist to honor and care for her. We assume she'll always be there with purity and bountiful produce of all sorts and bountiful beauty. But as our indigenous family says, the earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to the earth. How can we make this world a better place than the hereafter, as so many people think it will be? Let's give love to this place. A grieving mother of a Uvalde victim described heaven as the place where she finally gets to share mint chocolate ice cream with her daughter Lexi. This shouldn't be a metaphor, but a moral indictment. Let's give love to this place. The Dalai Lama said, "We are strange. We worship an invisible God, and we destroy a visible nature." The people in this congregation are acutely feeling the trauma of devastation through legislation, opening the door to shameless, brazen destruction of the well-being of the earth and its inhabitants, including flora and fauna. But we are gentle, angry people. We are justice-seeking people. We are young and old together. We are gay and straight together. And we are singing for our lives on this beloved planet together. Our strength is in our community. As in our children's story, our commitment to the earth is that we demonstrate not just care for the earth, but care for each other, so that we all may justly live. In keeping with our humanist message today, I'll leave you with the last quote from Heather Cox Richardson that resonates deeply with me. If I have a faith, it is in the principle of human determination, and that faith makes me a staunch defender of American democracy, the system of government that has the best chance, I think, of fostering a society in which everyone can reach their highest potential, including the little hummingbirds.
You've been sitting for a long time, guys. Thanks for your patience. You're invited to stand as we sing our closing hymn, 318, We Would Be One. invite you to stand for our extinguishing of our chalice and to say the extinguished chalicing words with me. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. And your charge today is to go and do good just for the sake of good itself. Thank you, everyone. You can now be seated for our postlude.
I hope that you will indulge me. We're going to do two songs. My trial, Lord, soon be over. That little book was given to me, and on every page spell liberty. Oh, my trials, Lord, soon be over. Religion were a thing that money could buy. The rich would live and the poor would die. Oh, my trials, Lord, soon be over. Too late, my brothers, too late, but never mind. Oh, my trials, Lord, soon be over. There is a tree in paradise. Pilgrims call it the tree of life. And all my trials, Lord, soon be over. Too late, my brothers, too late, but never mind. No, my trials, Lord, soon be over. This is one by a woman named Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who actually played a role in the creation of what we call Unitarianism. And she wrote a poem, and I turned it into this song. God and I in space alone, nobody else in view. Where are the people? Oh Lord, I said, the earth below and the sky overhead. and the dead whom once I knew. That was a dream, God smiled and said, dream that seemed to be true. There were no people living or dead. There was no earth and no sky overhead. There was only myself in you. Why do I feel no fear, I asked, meeting you here this way? For I have sinned, I know full well. And is there a heaven? And is there hell? And is this the judgment day? Nay, those were but dreams, the great God said, dreams that have ceased to be. There are no such things as fear or sin. There is no you never have been. There's nothing but all but me. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day.